How's it going, everybody? Thanks for stopping by the channel. Welcome to Vermont Scale Customs. So, as you can tell by the title, we're going to talk about the D90, we're going to talk about the Z2, we're going to talk about another axial rig, and we're going to take a brief minute to talk about the Panda X1. And so let's get right to it. So anyway, this rig right here is probably one of my older ones that I have. If not, I'd say maybe the third oldest out of everything that I have. I first started out by ordering a WPL, and before that got here, I turned around and ordered a RedCap 110. And after that, I think it was in sometime in August or September of 2020, right when the Rubicon and C10 were released, I ordered a Jeep Rubicon. So that's basically what this is. And then in February of 2020, that's when I kind of was wondering whether or not the 118 D90 body would actually fit on the SCX24 chassis, and so I placed an order for it, and very thankfully it did work out. It did fit, and so a video of that build got recorded, which I'll include a link in the description. Anyway, ever since then I've never really kind of felt like that build has been complete. And it's because it does come with an interior, and it's a very nice interior, actually. It's very well detailed. It's right side drive, so it's European accurate. But you can see, there are plenty of, knobs and dials and buttons and stuff like that to detail and paint. So we're not going to cover that in this video. We're going to save that for another one. It's going to be pretty specific to what we're going to do. Oh, that was just my refrigerator shutting off, so that's nice. Now you can actually hear without me talking over the buzz in the background. So anyway, it comes with a gear shift, comes with an e-brake, steering wheel, steering column, and of course your four-wheel drive shift. And obviously, swivel bucket seats, so you can turn around and eat dinner on your center console. Just kidding, they're not swivel bucket seats. So this I was going to paint chestnut, and then two-tone the seats, and then do black on all of the detailing for like the vents and stuff like that on the dash, and silver for the dials and everything. I'm not going to do numbers or anything like that, but I am going to do a couple of just detail things with just trying to do silver on the knobs and stuff, and make sure that looks really good. Now, I am not 100% sure whether or not this is even going to fit in side of this thing when it's done. I know that quite some time ago, it was about a year ago, I talked about challenging myself to get this thing stuffed inside of there. I know it can be done, yes. It's just that I built this D90 kind of as more of a performance-based crawler, and not necessarily so much as like, excuse me, as a finished scale crawler with, complete with an interior. But I do think that it would be kind of nice to try. But the problem is that these are already heavy enough, and anyone that owns even the 118s or anything like that, how awkward they can be and how rear weighted they are, and so to have that much extra weight sitting inside can just make it a little bit more of a challenge to run, I think, and turn it from a crawler into a trail truck very quickly by adding an interior. One of the other challenges that I'm going to end up running into is that I pretty much still have the ESC located in the factory position here, but I ended up coming up with just simply magnetic mount, and so interior is going to want to sit just shy of the battery, meaning that I'm going to probably have to remove at least probably like this whole center section here, back to, I think, just at the point where the dash mounts. If it goes any further than that, I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to be able to do, other than maybe just have to glue some pieces into place just to make sure that everything all works. I'll still be able to use my screw mounts and stuff like that, both in the front and the back, but everything else might change in terms of just how much of the central part of this that I can include. The battery also sits kind of in what would be basically the original stock position too in the Jeep, still inside. So it's probably going to shift a little bit more towards the back just to make sure that it clears the underside of this. Again, everything is going to get painted that color, and then I will go through and detail, you know, the fire extinguisher, shovel, wrench, and the toolbox and all that stuff in the appropriate colors and stuff like that. So that's project number, I don't know, 4 or 5 in the works right now. So let me just get this stuff all picked up and out of the way. And with the, oh sweet, just broke a turn signal. Oh, darn. Very delicate part there, folks. So we'll get this stuff very carefully out of the way and move into the next thing here. So a lot of you are familiar with the Kyosho Mini Z, and you're also probably familiar with the fact that the D90 does not come with a spare tire mount. It comes with some kind of mount, but I'm not sure that I would want to call that a spare tire mount, nor would it hold anything. So what I've done, since I don't run my spare tire mounts on my Mini Z, I'm going to see just how this looks, mounted probably somewhere about in this neighborhood back here. It's going to stand off just a tiny little bit. So, again, more counterweight, not 100% sure how I feel about all of that. The suspension on this thing is pretty much tuned for exactly what it is. If I add any more to it, it's going to start bringing a bunch of droop back in. I'm going to have to try and preload a little bit more, and it's going to affect how it drives. So I'm concerned about that. But needless to say, I wanted to share that idea with you. This is just an RC 4-wheel drive stamped steel bead lock, just with a single screw, holding it right on the back. And then again, I'm going to use a couple of nice coarse thread screws to be able to just match up a hole pattern. Maybe go ahead and send a drill bit through, real small drill bit. Go ahead and screw that onto the back, and then boom, it's got a spare tire. I did also want to mention here, let me remove this very quickly. With my magnetic mount that I used on the front of this, I did happily discover today, maybe it was yesterday, that this actually is capable with my magnetic mount of holding the spare tire right on the front, which honestly is a little bit more of a traditional location for the spare tire on the D90, on the older D90s. And that was really just to try and create either more room on the roof rack or add a second one to augment the, to support the one in the rear to see you had a second spare. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of a neat little feature that was strong enough to be able to hold on the front. So moving on. Let's get this out of the way. The Z2. Let's talk about this for a couple seconds. Last week, all the parts and pieces arrived for me to be able to custom bend and build a set of frame links for this to get it a little bit closer to kind of what I feel it should look and drive and perform like. It's still not 100% there, only just because of really basically just the electronics now at this point. As far as performance goes, its capability and everything, this thing really is looking pretty good. I'm very, very pleased with how this has turned out. I used it was like M2 threaded rod along with 3mm outer diameter, 2mm inner diameter stainless steel tubing, and then M2 rod ends, which I think actually have like a 1.7 or 1.8mm actual thread size. I have some around here. I'm just not exactly sure. I could show you which ones they are. But anyway, you can find that stuff on Amazon, fairly inexpensive. So basically for about 20 bucks or so, you can build your own frame links if you so desire. Now, bending the offsets for the front was a bit of a challenge. And that's just because it required a couple sets of pliers and, it's a pretty firm grip, and just make sure that you mark where your offset bends are going to be, so that way, one, that it's consistent, and that way, two, your plier location is consistent, and that when you bend and you finally get those in place, they do look somewhat the same. So I managed to do, hopefully, a fairly decent job, and it looks all right. I think it's going to perform pretty pretty well. I've had a bunch of runs on the indoor course with this thing, and it is running really well. I'm very pleased with it up to this point. I'm just not 100% totally sure that it's where I want it to be electronically, and that's just because I want to enable front and rear dig, but that's going to require a major investment into a Futaba transmitter or a FlySky, like a GP7, I think, or the GP5, I can't recall which. But something far more capable than what I currently have. So right now it's just running front and rear just off of just the dual output ESC. So anyway, that's pretty much enough about that. If you have any more questions about this, or you want to chat a little bit more, I can do maybe a video kind of more specifically about this. I know I didn't focus at all about the link build, and if you guys are curious about that stuff, I can definitely do a video in regards to how that gets done. It's very easy to do. It's really not complicated in any way, and it really opens up being able to kind of do whatever you want to do with link design and stuff like that with some of these. So if you have something that you're trying to do that you can't just click online and find it just yet, you can always just make your own. So anyway, let's move on to the next thing. And this is just kind of a quickie I wanted to share with you, just because I always sort of wanted to know myself. Maybe some of you have out there have done this, but I have not. I did not know what a set of Endura pin comp tires looked like on the Panda Hobby Tetra X1, and now I do know what they look like. So here they are. I thought I would share with you what this actually kind of. And personally, I really think that this is just, you know, if you were going to set up a Jeep and you were going to head out into, you know, to do some stuff, this is really honestly kind of scale-wise where you want to be, I think. You know, it's probably like related, you know, relative to like 38s or 40s, maybe even pushed out to 42s. I'm not sure, but that's right about where I would think that I would want my Jeep to look if I were heading out into the world where no one else might be. Anyway, probably not exactly, you know, the exact tread pattern that you'd want to find on this. And maybe, you know, a little bit different styling and stuff like that. But just overall size-wise, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to throw those on here and see what that looks like. So, that's that. Okay, moving on. Okay, this thing... and this thing, I guess. Here we go. Perfect. Nice. I've got some coffee here. It is Coffee and Crawlers, by the way. Episode, what, 5 now, I think? So, I can't tear this thing down. I did last night and installed everything on this. I did a few test runs. I toyed around with it. I rebuilt it about an hour and a half later. I just couldn't let this thing not be what it is right now, and I am not 100% sure what I'll end up doing with the Northwest Chassis Works Pitbull for the time being. This is probably just going to become another build at some point in time. What I may end up doing is actually try to do the most lightweight, super budget type of thing for this. I have like an entire drawer of at least like 3 or 4 SCX24 worth of parts that are all factory, all stock stuff. So I might try and do like as close to factory build of an SCX24 with stuff, which means that I have to order a few things in order to be able to get that done. So this is probably going to park for a bit. So anyway, like I said, tried desperately to like that setup with this thing. This has just earned such a place in my, you know, in my collection. Just with the way it runs, this thing has fallen from incredible heights and just picked itself right back up and does everything that it's supposed to do. I cannot just leave this thing not be what it is, and I could not tear it down. I just couldn't. So today I did take the time to actually finally trim off those rails and did a little bit of grinding to clean that up and also kind of round it off Oh, that's what oops, almost knocked my coffee over. Rounded off up at the front, and then you guys are probably wondering why I installed the shock pivot balls on my corner points here. And here's why. Hear that? Every time this thing rolls now, it hits those, and believe me, it rolls a lot. Even on the indoor course, I've made enough challenge on this thing that it definitely will send itself right off, rolling down to the bottom of it fairly easily. So anyway, what these are now for me are essentially an impact inhibitor shock. It's not a shock absorber because it's not absorbing any shock, I guess, but basically it is now what makes contact. Instead of the carbon fiber frame, it hits the steel ball. And I know it looks a little goofy, but I guess maybe it kind of, I don't know, I guess it kind of looks all right. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I think this is a pretty sick rig myself. I know a lot of guys are kind of rig snobs sometimes, but this thing has just, without a doubt, I've loved it since I built it. And that's, again, why it exists in the form that it does, and it's going to stay this way. Which brings me to the other rig that I currently wanted to build, that I wanted this to be when this showed up, didn't end up sort of kind of turning out like that. So I have placed an order for some stuff. I'm not going to disclose any details as of yet, but there is another 24 scale crawler build in the works. This one's actually gonna cost a pretty penny. It's gonna be outfitted with a Fury Tech setup. Finally, it's been a couple years, and I have avoided it and avoided it and avoided it, and I don't know why, but I think it's finally time to build a 24 scale with a brushless system in it. I need to finally just get over myself and finally just do it. Get beyond the brushed thing. And believe me, I love these Holmes Hobbies brushed motors. The 55 turn is just an amazing motor in this thing. I have zero complaints on its performance and everything else. I mean, if I had a whole fleet of them, I would be perfectly happy. But I tell you, I really just want to see just what the rush is all about with a brushless system. So the new crawler that's going to show up, I'm not going to disclose any other details other than the fact that it's going to have a Fury Tech brushless system in it. I have not ordered that yet. I'm just going to build everything as it shows up. And that means there's a new chassis on the way, and some other very cool parts to go along with that. So that brings this video to a close. We're coming up about the 20-minute mark, so getting a little long. Thank you very much for watching. I hope some of this information you found, I guess, at least somewhat useful. I will include links to a lot of the stuff, maybe not all of it, in the description, because I do want to keep some of this stuff maybe sort of, kind of mysterious, I guess. But any questions, comments, stuff like that, you know what to do. Please hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you on the next video. Thanks so much for watching, and take it easy out there, and we'll see you on the next one. All right? Peace.